It took 239 races and a little bit of borrowed champagne, too, for Nico Hulkenberg to end up on the podium. And you know, the thing, Tim, that I can remember most about Drive to Survive during the pandemic is the Daniel Nico pairing at Renault and Cyril Abiteboul saying that, Nico's contract was only going to be renewed if he hit a podium that year. And of course, he didn't, and they moved on. And I find it amazing that all these years later, all these teams later, he's been through 3 teams since then, right? Because he was the Aston Martin reserve driver. Mm-hmm. Then he was Haas. Mm-hmm. Now Sauber. He gives Sauber their first podium since 2012, and he gives himself his first podium ever. It's quickly turning into a dream season for Jonathan Wheatley and the team he's created at Sauber that is soon to be Audi. And I think that is I think that's a good place to start, Tim. I want to get a sense from you because you were there. Mm-hmm. What were the emotions like? And at lap 35, 36, 37, Lewis Hamilton is bearing down on Nico Hulkenberg. How close did you think that would be at the end?
Well, do you want to start with like his race first, or do you want to just go straight into what were the celebrations?
I mean, I guess we would start with his race. Let's start with his race.
Okay, so I think it's important for people to know. Obviously, Hulkenberg was starting at the back, and essentially his first stint on the Inters, he actually didn't feel like he was actually. He had performance in the car, or there was performance in the tires. So the car didn't feel very good. But the team decided that they were going to keep him out and not do that switch over to softs like we saw with other drivers as well, who kind of came in, strapped on the softs, and then were flying off the track. And then we had another downpour of rain. They basically decided to leave him out, see what he could do, and call him in at the last moment before they thought it was going to rain. And so they brought him in. He switched over to another set of Inters. So he didn't do like Inters and then slicks. He did Inters. And that is what got him propelled so far up the grid. Like his teammate came in and did Inters and then threw on the medium compound, flew off, crashed. Yeah. Came in, actually, Gabriel Bortoletto came in, strapped on the headphones and watched the rest of Hulkenberg's race, listened to his radio, and learned from him while he was there. He didn't just leave the track. He was actually still there following the celebrations and everything.
Yeah, he went up to Nico and gave him a big hug, which I thought was cool.
Yeah, and he stayed in the garage and he listened to what Nico had to say throughout the race. He watched Nico's full race so he could learn from him and stuff. So it was pretty legit. So when he was catching Lance, the tire deg that Nico was going through wasn't as much as what Lance was dealing with. And we can talk about Lance in a minute. But essentially, his tires weren't degrading as much as Lance's were. And that's what allowed him to get by Lance, because he was saying that Lance was actually really, really quick. And the two of them were very close on pace. It was just the tire degradation that was different. Once he had gotten past Lance and then had to face, Lewis bearing down on him, it was at that moment where the team decided they were communicating back and forth with Nico, like, what do you want to do when it comes to tires? And he was comfortable to stay out on the Inters for a little bit longer while everybody else pitted, because you had Hamilton that actually pitted earlier. And it wasn't that they were trying to protect from like an undercut. It was that they were just going until they felt that the track was dry enough. And Nico felt that the track was dry enough to just bring him in and get onto a slick tire and just see what happens. And it managed to work out for him. I mean, obviously Lewis went off when he was on the slick.
Yep.
And that obviously costed him. But again, when Lewis started to make his push towards the end of the race, so when there was probably about 5 laps to go, Hulkenberg was able to answer it because he had waited so long to do that switch over to the slick tire. He did a good job of saving it at the same time as well. So that's essentially kind of how Nico's race played out. He said that it was a lot of high stress because the track was so tricky And it was that he felt like there were moments where he just thought he was going to crash the car. Like,
Right.
he said it was just so dangerous. He didn't even know if he was going to make it through the entire race with the car in one piece and all that kind of stuff. Paraphrasing, obviously, but yeah, it was a tricky one for him. And I think concentration was key for this race because these guys were like exhausted at the end. They were tired, but mentally you could tell that these guys were exhausted because the concentration level was so high because of the weather, because of the track, how difficult it was to keep the car on the track. And that was a reoccurring theme with every driver. Every driver basically said, like, I thought I was going to crash like every lap. Like, that's how difficult this race was. So, I mean, great drive from Hulkenberg. It was extremely impressive to see. Super happy for him. There's a lot of folks in the paddock who are just over the moon for the guy. Everyone I talked to, team principals, did interviews with, they all congratulated Hulkenberg. They were all super happy for him. So yeah, and then the team had a big celebration afterwards.
Yeah, and as you said on your tweet, Mercedes and Aston Martin sent all of their champagne bottles because Sauber only had 2 champagne bottles. So they sent them over, which I thought was a very, very nice gesture. I'm not sure if they'll be receiving a bill tomorrow morning, but that's tomorrow morning's problem. And I think, it's hard to be an F1 fan and not be excited for Nico Hulkenberg after this. Obviously, he gets driver of the day as well, which I know is largely symbolic, but still, everybody. I don't care what team you're rooting for. Everybody, or what driver you're rooting for, everybody's rooting for Nico Hulkenberg there. And as cool as Lewis Hamilton's podium streak was, and it was unbelievable. I think it was 14 years. If it had to end, I'm glad it ended like this, Tim.
Yeah, like 15 years without ever doing a podium is ridiculous. I just remember him having so many chances. Well, not so many, but him having quite a few chances and something just happening. I mean, if I remember Brazil 2012, then I believe there was another one in between. I just can't remember the date. And then Azerbaijan 2017. He crashed on his own there, if I remember correctly, but he was in line. He could have had a chance at a podium. And then the other big one was Germany, 2019, in the wet. I remember that one because he definitely was in line for a podium there. He was definitely in line for 3rd place there, and he crashed. And so I think for him, he kind of seemed like he was over it at the end of the race. Like he just, I don't know if he was just super exhausted or what it was, but then when I went down to the Sauber hospitality area, dude, it was absolute madness.
I bet it was.
Madness. I had to post some of the stuff on my Instagram. It was friggin' wild, dude. When they got those champagne bottles, we all got soaked. Like, there was champagne being sprayed everywhere. It was like a party in the hospitality area at Sauber, Adam. Like, it was ridiculous.
Well, so I saw the hug between Jonathan Wheatley and Nico, and I think Jonathan said, and again, he wasn't mic'd, but I think he said, "You did it. You finally did it." There seems to be Sauber for so long has always been that team that I don't know anybody who's like, I'm a big Sauber fan. Mm-hmm. Like, they're a team of kind of, they brought in some good drivers to the sport. They brought in some interesting sponsors to the sport, and specifically like Petronas and things like that. It was Sauber Petronas back in the day. But they've never really done it, man. Like, they never, as that team, that outfit never really crested, never really. There was a couple of seasons where they got a little close in the points. Where they've never done it. Mm-hmm. To have a good result like this after being literally a back marker for 2 or 3 years, I mean, we're seeing, Tim, legitimate improvements in the car. And I understand that the wet had a lot to do with why Nico Hulkenberg ended up with where he ended up with, and Lance Stroll as well, who we will touch on. I think seeing a veteran driver like Nico, who has been a qualifying god ever since he came back into the sport, coming to this team, and this team didn't score any points until like the last 2 races last year with Zhou Guanyu and Valtteri Bottas. Not their fault. Their equipment was out of date. Their cars were bad. It's just the vibes are good. And the vibes have never been good at Sauber. Never. Like, they've never been like we're the fun team. It's always been like the sort of dry toast team. And it's nice to see that happening. Is that the feeling you got down there?
Yeah, definitely. You made a good point with Jonathan Wheatley, because he has come in and really turned this team around. So is Mattia Binotto as well. I think Mattia bringing Jonathan on board was just a great move. I remember you and I were discussing when that happened, and both of us just saying like that move is going to pay off.
You knew a lot more than I did, right? Like, you're so much more integrated.
But still, like, it was a master move, Adam, to pull him away from Red Bull Racing, and you can see he's put his stamp all over the team. Like, they operate like a team now, and also putting people in the right places where they're going to be successful. That's the other thing that Wheatley has done. He came out to do a scrum with us, and someone had like put down this cigar for him. Like, someone had given him this big, huge cigar.
Nice.
He was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, if I'm going to smoke that or not. He's like, I just can't tell my wife if I do. It was hilarious, man. But he had nothing but high praise for Hulkenberg. I think for him, he felt that Hulkenberg had been treated poorly within the media at some points. Where
no question.
I think he felt that, at least this is the sense that I got, that he felt that, Hulkenberg could have been treated a lot better throughout his career by the media, because Wheatley has always known him, and he's always known to be extremely talented. And that was one of the reasons, like, obviously he's at the team for one, but the other part of it is that, like, Jonathan Wheatley really believes in this guy. Like, he really believes in him.
Tim, when he came out of juniors, they expected him to be the next world champion.
Oh, yeah.
People forget that.
Oh, yeah, dude.
Highly touted.
Oh, yeah, 100%, because he was winning so much in all the junior categories. He was winning everything. But talking with Wheatley, you get the sense that he's trying to enjoy the moment, but keep everyone's sort of feet on the ground.
Sure.
He's happy that the car has performance in it now, and they keep bringing performance to it. And he thinks that's a positive direction for where they're going to be going. He just wanted to try and, like, as excited as everybody was, like, we were all excited for them too.
Of course.
Because you're feeding off of their energy. Because, for people who don't know, when you're reporting on this stuff, right, you're right with the team. Like, you're close, you're rated. Like, I was right in the celebration. Like, you go to my social media page, you see the picture I got of Hulkenberg, drinking champagne. Like, you're right in there. And so you feel all those emotions, right? And it's like, it's hard not to sort of, like, be happy for the team.
Certainly.
And to, like, feel their energy. And it was kind of like Jonathan Wheatley was just sort of trying to get everybody just, okay, like, this is great. Let's enjoy it while we can for now, and we'll just keep working away at our process, and we'll stay there. We're not going to talk about podiums anymore after this. If we get them, that's great. But the idea is this is just building blocks. That's his main idea.
If they keep working and they all keep rowing in the same direction, it's a taste of what could be.
Yeah.
Right? This is what could be in their future. They're going to be a works team, Tim. Like, this is no joke, this project. And so all these guys that have, I'm sure some of these people, by guys, I mean men and women, all these people that have been there the entirety, maybe they've been there even half decade, right? On this sort of directionless, listless team, are now seeing the forces sort of move in the right direction, and they get to be a part of it. I think that's really exciting. I saw a Mattia Binotto meme where he's the old lady from Game of Thrones, and he's like, "Tell Cersei, I want her to know it was me," and it's just him saying, "Tell Ferrari, I wanted them to know it was me." He's got to feel like, I know that Ferrari still has, it's Ferrari.
Yeah.
But Mattia has to be feeling pretty good tonight, I think, a little bit.
Big time, man. Like, this was a big deal for him coming over to this team, right? Like, he got bounced from Ferrari. been there forever.
Yeah.
Actually didn't think he did that bad of a job. He just really liked to stick up for his team and teammates. So that was his problem. I mean, but to me, that's not a problem. And so you send him over to a different type of a team where he signs up. I mean, he's only been there for not even a full year yet, and look what's happening. Like, I mean, it. People sometimes would be like caught off guard by this, but like I am not surprised that with those two working together, Jonathan Wheatley, Mattia Binotto, that this team is where they are. Because look, those are like serious racing guys. Like they have been in motorsports their whole lives. Like they eat, sleep, and breathe it. So this isn't shocking, but it's a great story because you're seeing this underdog team really starting to punch above its weight now.
Yeah, very, very cool. Now, let's get to sort of the main crux of the race, which is a safety car, Oscar Piastri, and Max Verstappen. And Oscar was penalized 10 seconds for basically...
So it is essentially, Adam, it was for erratic braking.
Erratic braking, which you're not allowed to do. And actually, Nico Hulkenberg told him in the cool-down room, hey, man, like, that messed up things all the way back to me when Oscar was like, apparently you can't do that. Now, I know when you're in the car, your perspective of how things are versus outside of the car is completely different. He cut his speed by like 150 kilometers in a very short amount of time.
166.
Yeah, like, that's a crazy drop in speed. Yeah. Max, I don't know that Max had to take evasive action, but obviously he did kind of get, ahead of him. I feel like that's Oscar playing games. I think that as a Formula One driver, you absolutely must always play games with your opponent. Sometimes you're going to get burned by it. Oscar felt like I got screwed there. Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on the penalty? Was it the right one for the FIA to call? 10 seconds is a lot.
So I think let me just paint the picture first, and then we'll get into like the nitty gritty of it. So at the end of every race, we've talked about this, but for new listeners and viewers, because we are getting them, we get the reporters, journalists get documents from the FIA. Inside those documents tells us what exactly the reason is for every competitor getting a penalty. What have they done in the cockpit? What does the data say? What are the numbers? And then the explanations. And for Piastri, it was interesting. So he broke with 52.9 PSI. So the amount of pressure, so 50 something bar, like it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot. And he shed 166 kilometers an hour on the Hangar Straight. Then if we go to Canada and we talk about George Russell and what happened there behind the safety car where George slowed up and Max sort of went by and was like, oh, whoa, George is braking, radically or whatever. And then Red Bull protests the race afterwards and we're stuck there for 5 hours and George doesn't get a penalty. So George was braking with just over 30 PSI and the deceleration not even as close as much. So then you go so I went to Andrea Stella and I was with him after the race. And he explained it that when you're behind the safety car, essentially in these type of conditions, because it's cold here, 17 degrees, this cold where we're coming from, Adam, like it's over 30 back home. And it's been like that for like quite a while now. But so it's coming here. It is colder. It's wet. And to generate enough heat in the brake and then also in the intermediate tire requires a lot of force. That makes sense. I get that for sure. Was the safety car lights out when that happened? I mean, that's another question because I didn't get to see the safety car lights. But when you have that much, deceleration, that's a lot. It's a little much. And I think 10 seconds is a little harsh as well. So there's a fine line here somewhere.
I was shocked it was 10. I thought it would be 5.
Yeah, me too. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, and listen, I acknowledge that I'm a McLaren fanboy. I get that. Like, I totally get it. I love Oscar. I love Lando. I'm all the way in on this team, and I'm thrilled that they're finally winning, because when we started doing this show together, Tim, they were a backmarker team.
They were. They were
but
very good.
I do feel like I was like, 10 seconds is like, that is an egregious hit.
Yeah.
And I just, if it's 10, it's 10, whatever. It's still 1-2 McLaren. Like, it didn't overall like affect the team, whatever it's going to affect. It's going to make Oscar and Lando's point scores a little bit closer than I think Oscar would like. He'll get over it. They'll live. I just thought, I'm like, I did have questions about the penalty, but again, like, the FIA doesn't want to see that. And sometimes, I understand from other sports that there are certain things that you just cannot do where, maybe two guys are battling it out. It's only a 5-second thing, even though there might be a guy wrecked on the side. You know what I mean? It might be just a safety concern. And it's like just a reminder to not just Oscar, the entire grid, watch yourselves.
Yeah. And I think also, Adam, like, there's another component to this too. It's Max Verstappen, right?
Yeah.
And Stella brought this up. He did allude to it, where maybe our competitors, lent a hand in helping this decision get made for a penalty. Paraphrasing, obviously. He said exactly.
And what they would mean by that, Tim, is what? Like, how would Red Bull do that?
He would say, he said essentially
and you're looking
that they would need to see if competitors made it worse.
Right.
And so if you go back to Canada again, George and Max, it's Max Verstappen's there. Again, Max is flying by George in that moment, be like, whoa, George, right? So there's that. And then again today or Sunday at the British Grand Prix, you have the same sort of thing, same competitor. It's so hard to like, I do think that Oscar deserved at least a 5-second time penalty, not 10. And also, I think Max may have made it worse when I watch it back a couple times. And I think Verstappen was surprised that he actually got a penalty for it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
okay. Well, you know what? And listen, if Red Bull helped to make that penalty happen, then they did their job, right? Like, I just, that's sport. That's the way it goes. Now,
that's Max. He's playing chess, man.
He was playing chess, but unfortunately, it got the hold of him too, because later that lap, he speed wobbled and it put him back into 10th place. It was a really, slippery track where even a guy like Max Verstappen, who's great in the wet, great in the everything.
They took all the wing out of the car, though.
So let's talk about that downforce thing, because that is so they took the wing out of the car because they wanted straightaway speed, right?
Mm-hmm. But it only works in the dry. It only works in the dry. You can't have, like, Red Bull knew if it was going to rain, it was going to be a difficult day.
But Tim, we recorded Wednesday night, and we knew Wednesday night that it was going to rain Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
We knew. I told you. I said it on the show.
You most certainly did. 100%. They knew, though. Like, I think it was just a huge gamble. It was doing whatever they could to get pole and maintain track position as best they could and come away with a good result, whether that be a win or a podium. I mean, Horner feels that, if Max hadn't have had some moments, then he would have been on the podium.
Yeah.
So I don't even know if he would have been on the podium, though, Adam, because their car was so bad in the wet and in the corners that like nobody could have drove that thing.
No, and you saw that with Yuki, right? Like, Yuki was a total non-factor. And I don't know if he would have had the same setup as Max, but even so, he was brutal.
Yeah, I think like they had, their downforce levels were Monza downforce levels, Adam.
Which, I don't understand.
Think about that for a second. Monza downforce levels. Right?
And we give them, and I'm sorry I have to plug in my computer because it's dying here. We gave Ferrari crap for strategy calls like that one.
Yeah.
Right? Like when Tia was running them. Matt, you could start Max in 12th, but if he had enough downforce on that car, he would have worked his way to the front.
Well, the way that the race ended up working out, right, Adam, there would have been a shot of him podium or winning. Like there would have been a window there. But again, right, like and that's the other thing. These teams can't go back in. Like these teams can't. Like hindsight's a wonderful thing, and these teams just cannot go back into the future and right the wrongs. They have to move forward with what they've got. They wanted to get track position. They wanted to try and get something special. Max delivered it. He just couldn't hold on enough because of the way the car was set up for qualifying and then the race and the amount of rain that we got. And I don't think people really considered just how much rain we actually got here. Like it was raining since I walked out this front door at 7 o'clock this morning.
Listen, they were showing it on TV and you could see it in the broadcast. You could see that drivers couldn't see anything. Even when it was sunny, the water that they were throwing on those cars was crazy.
Adam, it was torrential downpour here just all day. And so if you don't have the right amount of downforce on the car, it's definitely going to cost you. It's unfortunate for Max because, where he had started the weekend to where he ended up finishing. I mean, it's pretty disappointing. Like that guy really threw his, heart on his sleeve there and just drove the hell out of the car. And did some incredible things this weekend. Just not enough grip with the car for the race, and that's all there is to it. Did his best to hang on, but
yeah,
McLarens were too good, man. They had too much. They were able to make all the downforce levels work on their car. Like they had a lot of wing on the car, and then also factor in when you're running less wing, you're screwing up the tires. Like the tires just don't last because you have to have so much more front grip because you don't really have any rear grip because you've trimmed the car out so much. So it's just a huge compromise. And so I think that was like another one of those things that even if it was dry, Max was going to have to try and find a way through it.
Now, looking at Oscar after the race, that was as pissed as we've ever seen him.
Yeah,
you can understand why, not being debriefed, and people are like, well, the vibes at McLaren are bad again because he was pissed off after the race, and at the champagne celebration, like, I'm sorry, everybody didn't get what they want, but what was beautiful. The secondary great story of the afternoon was Lando Norris winning his home race, hugging his dad, hugging his agent, hugging his mom, and she said she just grabbed his helmet and said, enjoy this. And this was special. For Lando, we've been really hard on him for some of the mistakes he's made this year. Mm-hmm. And rightfully so. Like, this is a guy that sometimes you're like, dude, you are throwing this away. Mm-hmm. And a couple of races ago, Tim, we would have said Oscar is the leader. In fact, I talked to you about Ralf Schumacher coming on and doing his newspaper hit or whatever he does, and saying, like, it's already been decided Piastri's the guy. And when we talked a couple weeks ago, you kind of said, well, let's back off on that for a second. And you could see why. Here we are, 2 races, 2 Lando wins later. And this was a particularly special one. You got to tell me about, his race was obvious. He just stayed in it. He did the George Russell, low on the radar, mistake-free, and things happened around him that allowed him to win. Tell me about the emotion afterwards. Tell me about the crowd reaction to one of their own winning.
Man, the crowd was going crazy. It was like when Lewis won, and I told you, like, when we were doing that podcast, and you could hear the fans, like the roar of the crowd. That's what's so special about the British Grand Prix. Canada too, because you can actually hear the fans like going nuts.
It's loud.
Yeah, and the Canadian Grand Prix fans are very well educated, so they know what's going on. Same thing with the British Grand Prix fans too. Like, they knew exactly what was up. But when he crossed the start-finish line, man, that place went bananas. It was crazy. Got to sit in on the press conference with him. Some points he was lost for words. Like, he was sort of like overcome by all the emotion from the victory. I think, Adam, when we spoke about this with Lando, it was last time out, but a big thing that he had been working on was, and I'd said this then, was like putting extra time in with the team at the factory, putting in extra time on the sim, but also putting extra time with his team and also on the personal side away from the track. And for him, he kind of circled back to that again and was like, this is, I think just him acknowledging the hard work he's put in, paying off.
Yes.
And, he had been asked about the suspension, and that has been a talking point now for the second race going. I even brought it up with Oscar on Thursday because I wanted to know if Oscar had taken the front suspension that Lando was using because it's brand new. Oscar said no, because it was more of a feeling thing. It wasn't a performance thing. But then Lando was like, he wasn't really admitting that it was the front suspension that was helping him be successful, because he felt that, if you go back even to like Canada, like he was still fast. They did introduce a suspension there, but then they updated that one in Austria the next time out. So he thinks that like it would give him like maybe a couple hundredths here or there because he could feel things a little bit better. But he still felt that like if he had the old suspension on the car, he probably would have won. And he said, like, essentially, I'm paraphrasing, but yes. I think Oscar's going to have a real fight on his hand here. He's only got an 8-point lead now, but Lando's got the confidence. You can see it. Yeah. And that's dangerous.
Yeah, this is what makes a great title bout, right? So, sometimes sometimes it's going to be between two teammates. And you know what, Tim? We haven't seen that in a long time. We haven't seen a real good, true teammate battle, I think, since Rosberg Hamilton.
Yeah, 2016.
I mean, there was a little bit of Verstappen, Ricardo, I guess, but they were never going to win the championship, right?
No.
This could set us up for a great inter-team battle. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and these two guys like each other. Like, that's the thing. It's like,
there's always respect.
Like Oscar, like even Lando acknowledged how fast Oscar was this weekend and how fast he was in the race on Sunday. But Lando appreciates, even though he does admit that it's like a ton of work and a lot of pressure and a lot of stress, but he appreciates the amount that Oscar pushes him, because he really pushes him now. And sometimes Lando can't match it. Yeah. Because Oscar's just too fast sometimes. Yep. So this is going to go back and forth. We're going to get another swing here. I wouldn't be surprised if Lando took the lead back, and I wouldn't be surprised if Oscar countered. We'll see when we get to towards before summer break how this relationship's doing. But I mean, so far so good. They haven't had any blowouts. They've been very respectful to each other, like you had mentioned there, Adam. So I think this battle between these two is going to be just fascinating to see how it sort of unwinds.
I think so too. I'm looking forward to it. Now, let's talk a little bit about Lance Stroll, who for a bit there was up in third place. And at the end of the race, Tim, and I am going to quote this, he said to his engineer, the engineer said, okay, hang on one sec. I'm going to load the tweet properly. Engineer, crazy car to drive, amazing finish. Stroll says, crazy is an understatement. I mean, it's the worst piece of shit I've ever driven in my life, to be honest. But the engineer then goes, but it's okay, seventh. So obviously they're not thrilled with the Aston Martin thing right now. Adrian Newey was there this week. It was great to see him back at the track. Kind of makes sense. I mean, they're right there. Tim, I know that rain had something to do with it, but the Aston Martin finish, not just from Lance, but from Fernando too, pretty great today. I mean, I think that's their best race this season in terms of getting it done. And Fernando getting his 2 points, Lance getting 6. That's solid. Yeah, for a team like Aston Martin, who we're not expecting to be very good at all.
Yeah, I mean that car is horrible. There's no question about it. It's really bad. They brought an update this weekend, a revised, new floor. Yeah, they have some more coming. There'll be a bigger component coming for Spa, but the floor that they had brought actually, Lance was pretty quick on it on Friday. And what happened in Saturday practice with the crash that brought out the red flag, that then basically Lance didn't get to practice low fuel soft tire run, so didn't know what the balance was going to be like heading into qualifying. And then he got screwed by the yellow flag in qualifying Q1, and then the next attempt, balance just gone, and there was nothing he could do about it. The car just was, to him, just felt so different with all of the fuel drained out of it that it just was undrivable, really. And then when you fast forward into the race, the stint that Lance did, I can't remember what lap it was. If it was 8 or 9, they had brought him in. He was one of the first ones to pit for softs, and they threw on a set of soft tires. And he went out in that, I think it was about a 4-lap stint. The sector 3 was still just soaking wet, man. Like, it was brutal.
Yep.
I don't know how the hell he got the car through there in one piece on a set of slick tires without turning that car into a ball. But the next 2 sectors, that's where he was gobbling guys up. Like, the soft tire stint that he did to get himself into that position to be riding around in P3 was incredible. Tell people should go back, watch his onboard camera, watch what he had to do and deal with. It's super impressive, man. Like, when it rains, he's one of the best in wet weather conditions, and those are the hardest conditions to drive in. It
was an impressive go today. It really was.
It really was. The problem with the update, I think anyways, is that it needs more. They need more running time with it, I think, so they can get a better understanding of where to run it ride height wise without degrading the tire, because he had a lot of tire drag like in the race, especially on the inters and especially on the soft tires, because when he was on the inters, Hulkenberg even said it, that Lance and him were matching each other pace for pace. Like, they both were equal. The fact is that the car just chewed through the friggin' tires. And they just couldn't, the car wouldn't keep the tire alive where the Sauber could. And then when you watch his final slick tire stint on the softs, those things lasted 4 laps and then they fell off a cliff. Like, it was, I don't know how he kept the car off the track on the track, dude. I really don't. Like, even Alonso was like it was a great performance. They did great. He was awesome. Yeah.
And both of them in the points actually puts, what's great is, and I don't think people are paying too much attention to the midfield race, but it's actually pretty strong when you look at, normally what you have is 2 or 3 teams from probably position 5 to position 7 that are in a clump. But what we actually have is Williams at 59 points, kick Sauber in 6th, which has got to be their highest placement in years.
Coming for 5th, buddy.
They're in 6th place right now. Ooh. Racing Bulls and Aston Martin are tied at 7th and 8th, and Haas not far behind them with they're 6 points behind Aston Martin and Racing Bulls in 9th. Alpine is quite far out of it, but that's a pretty good glut of teams that are all going for 5th place. That 5th place is going to be hard to get. And I want to talk very quickly about Williams Racing, because obviously Albon finishes in the points. They get a couple. Sainz gets some contact, I think, with George Russell. And it was just bad luck. And Carlos Sainz said, listen, I'm not, or no, it was Charles Leclerc he had contact with. He's like, I wasn't mad at Charles. He's like, it wrecked his race too. He's like, I'm just wondering when the bad luck stops happening to us.
Yeah.
It's too bad, because the car is better than their points have shown this year.
It is. You're right. I do feel bad for him, but when I take a look at what Alex Albon did at him, Alex was pretty good, really good, I should say. Yeah. But for Carlos, he's had a tough weekend. He had a tough outing reasonably tough outing in Austria. I think he's a little disappointed from the standpoint that the team isn't updating the car enough. and everybody else around them is. Like everyone else around them are making steps with updates. And Williams really isn't. Like they're very focused on 2026. And I don't know. Like there has to be a point where if you're Williams, you have to weigh the pros and cons of just shutting development down a bit. Like they do have bits and pieces coming, but by the sounds of it, they don't have anything big coming.
Yep.
And I think, Adam, that's a huge error, because how much money are you willing to lose? Essentially, that's the question.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a challenge.
Well, it's like tens of millions of dollars. Like I don't know how you justify that to the team, the shareholders. I don't know how you do that. So I know that next season I know for next season they are so focused on that. But at some point, Adam, they're going to have to take some sort of a step, or else they're going to quickly be at the back. Like that's how much development these teams are doing this season. Even though people were like, "Oh yeah, everyone's going to shut development off," and they're going to focus on 2026.
There's too many teams in it to do that.
There are way too many teams in it for them to do that. Way too many. Like there will be a point where development gets shut off, but that is not coming until well after summer break. Like I'm telling you right now, like they're going to lose like more spots in the constructors if they don't do something with this car soon.
The other guy I wanted to bring up specifically today, and obviously, we can mention Ferrari's race, but it was what it was. One storyline for me that's really standing out is Pierre Gasly. I know he passed Lance towards the end of the race, finishes 6th place. I mean, he has gathered all of Alpine's points this year, 19 of them. They've been hard to come by. Pierre has turned himself into, and they were complimenting him on the broadcast, into this gritty driver that is squeezing the most out of this car on a regular basis. And I think nobody at Alpine is like, yeah, they're going to replace Pierre Gasly. The question I think for me is, how long does Franco Colopinto have?
Oh, I don't think he's got. It's tough to put a timestamp on it, but it doesn't feel like he has long.
No,
it really doesn't.
And are the Valtteri Bottas to Alpine rumors true, or do they go a different direction?
No, that's legit. That is legit. That is a legit thing. Also, Paul Aaron. But
tell me about Paul Aaron. What do we know about Paul Aaron?
Like I was taught, he's obviously a junior driver, and a big part of what he's going to be doing is he's going to be running, free practice. Free practice sessions, FP1 sessions for because basically Alpine and Sauber agreed on a deal to take reserve driver Paul Aaron and put him into the Sauber for some FP1 sessions. Yep. I think that's to kind of get an idea as to what he's all about. Can he make this step into an F1 car, and does Alpine think that that's a good idea to bring him over and put him in the car? I don't think it's a good idea. I really don't. I think if this is a young driver who you think has potential, you need to foster the talent and give it the confidence and bring them along slowly. Don't throw them into a bad car and have them scare the hell out of themselves, lose the confidence, and just have it turn into a snowball effect and you ruin a driver.
Yes.
Because that's what will happen, because we've already seen it happen. It's kind of happening with Franco Colopinto now. And so I don't know how he gets his confidence back. The car is really bad. Pierre Gasly has been driving out of his mind with a car that is a last place car. So what he's doing is monumental work. But when you look at what Franco Colopinto's having to get through, it's hard, man, because doesn't have the testing time, doesn't have the seat time, doesn't understand the car enough. I mean, he just dropped a wheel on the exit of, what was it? It wasn't Stowe. I can't remember. In quali, just drop the wheel. That's it. It goes directly into the wall. And it's like,
Yeah.
why are you still accelerating when you can feel that the wheel's about to like drop?
Well, and obviously seeing Flavio's reaction to that, where his head was in his hands, like, oh my God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there's so much frustration at that team.
So Franco had to retire from the race with like a driveline issue.
Yeah.
So he didn't even start. He was already starting from pit lane. He didn't even start. So that's basically his weekend. And I'm not too sure if he's going to be in the car next time out. I mean, I've heard a lot.
A few weeks till Spa, so I mean, they're going to make those calls now, I would think.
Who knows, man? Like, I've heard a lot in the paddock. You know, it's all rumors. Obviously, people just talking. But it doesn't sound good.
If Valtteri gets back into the car, does that help his chances with Cadillac or hurt them?
Well, you have to wonder where Cadillac's going to be when they get onto the grid. So let's say that Valtteri gets into the car. He's probably not going to need as much time as, say, like a Franco Colopinto or a Jack Doohan would in the car. But he's going to need a little bit of time.
Yep.
And if that's successful, and if I'm Alpine, I mean, why not make him an offer? And then if you're Cadillac, you're Valtteri, you can play the two of them against each other.
Sure.
Maybe make a little bit more money. But again, if you're Valtteri, I don't know if going to Cadillac's going to be your move, man. Like that team.
Would you rather be at Alpine?
I think I would. So
if you're Valtteri, are you able to parlay this into a this year and next year deal?
I would. That's what I would try and do if I was him.
Okay. Interesting.
Because like really, Adam, really I don't think, like, look, Cadillac's got a huge job ahead of them.
Yep.
Like a huge job, man. Like,
I expect them to be the worst team next year.
Yes. Like, this is not a 2-year project. This is a 10-year project.
Yep.
Like, this is what you've signed up for.
Yep.
So if you're Valtteri and you just want to be in the show, or do you want to be in the show and performing? You could have a Mercedes engine next year with Alpine. So there's already a direct link.
Yep. That's a good point.
Yeah, between those two.
And it's not like the Alpine engineers don't know what they're doing.
No, that's it. Yeah, exactly.
It's like, you know, they're using Renault power for this year only, and then that's it, right? At a certain point, like, you have to think that there's some pretty experienced people in there.
Yes, 100%. And it's like I've always said with Alpine, like, it's a team that works its ass off, like the people behind the scenes. It's just getting everything right with your aero and your concepts, having the CFD, wind tunnel, racetrack talk to each other.
Yep.
And that's it. That's basically what you got to work at right now.
Yep. Okay. Well, listen, Tim, there's going to be a lot to talk about in this mini silly season before actual silly season, which I think is great. So later on in the week, obviously, we'll check in and we'll go down to one episode a week until we get a race week again.
We do have questions.
Oh, let's hit them.
Yeah.
Give it to us.
Well, here's what I'm saying. Do you want to go over to my Twitter?
Yeah, I can
read through the questions, and I'm going to update people on what happened with Mercedes today.
Okay, update us. Go ahead.
Because it was not a good day for Mercedes. So let's start with the opening of the race. So I sat down, spoke with Toto Wolff at the end of this one, and he was telling us that as soon as they made their first stop, their pit stops from then on out, it was what do you call it? It was a downward spiral.
Yes.
That's what he said. And basically, from the downward spiral, everything just went terribly wrong. Essentially is what he said. But by pitting, I got the quotes here. I made my notes. I made my notes here. So by pitting so early and being one of the first to pit, it made them sort of spiral out of their form because it triggered another stop for Antonelli, and seeing where Antonelli was at when he was running, it's around P4 at the time. They should have just instead of sharing the similar strategies, Toto said they should have split the strategies. He said they didn't do a good job at all with that, because when you look at what Hulkenberg had done, Toto believed that and he wasn't taking anything away from Nico Hulkenberg. He was happy for Nico Hulkenberg, but he felt that by splitting the strategies, Kimi probably would have been the one that finished P3 and not Nico. So
Right.
there was a lot of that going on, and I wonder if that was more George Russell making the call on those stops, because the way that you saw their pit stops play out, their strategy play out, and George making the call on some of the things, I wonder if it was George forcing the issue on some of those things, and Mercedes just felt that, we should do what George is thinking instead of rolling the dice with their rookie. As for the incident with Isaac Hajar, Toto just told me it was just an incident. He said there's nothing that either driver could have done because the visibility was just so bad. The amount of downforce that was taken out of the car from the diffuser getting damaged was about 30 points of downforce. So that's a lot. So essentially that's why you got to retire the car, because it just becomes undrivable. One of the things that they want to work on with Kimi now is getting him back to baseline, they called it. So if you're watching the last few races, it's been a really difficult run for Antonelli. But again, he's a rookie, so these things are to be expected.
Yep.
He's not expected to be great every race, and he's not expected to go on great runs either. So he's kind of in this downward trajectory, and they need to get him to come back up to whatever their baseline they feel is. So not overloading him with too much information, I think. And allowing him to just drive the car and just be a little more free, so then he can begin to retake in the information that they're giving him. So it's a little bit of a process that they kind of got to do. Sounds like it's kind of like hit and reset in a way. And sometimes, drivers do that. So that makes total sense. And as for George, I mean, just a brutal day. I mean, he was questioning their strategy as well for certain things. So I have to wonder if there was a huge miscommunication when it came to the pit wall and the driver to pit wall communication. I think there's something broke down there that they're going to have to investigate a little bit more, because I think today, Adam, again, podium definitely got away from them. But also, this was a great conditions for the car. Nice and cool.
Yeah, I was thinking that going in.
Perfect conditions.
Cold.
Yeah, Total knew it as well.
So, Michael Klink actually asked, he said that that crash between Hajar and Antonelli was alarming. Weren't Pirelli and the FIA doing some development to eliminate rooster tails? What have you heard about that?
Yes, they were.
And rooster tails, by the way, anybody, is the spray that looks like a rooster tail coming off the back of tires. Some people don't know that. So there you go, Tim. Go ahead.
They were working on rain guards for last season. They had started working on them. They haven't worked on them since. But it is something that the FIA is looking into. Is it a component that you strap to the car that helps deaden rooster tails, or what? Because today they were bad, and that's essentially what happened to Hajar. Which really sucked, because you hate to see that when he's a driver in that position. It was a big hit too. He was okay afterwards, but again, yes, they were working on something, but at this moment they haven't said much about where it is in terms of its progress.
Got it. Okay. A couple of the questions we've already sort of talked about, so I won't kind of go back over them. A lot of them have to do with people are just so excited about Nico Hulkenberg, and it's great. And then, of course, the Oscar incident was the other big question that came up. But Angie Gray asks, I think, one of the more interesting questions. we've ever seen on this show. And I can't believe I've never asked it. Just wondering where you are during the race. Is there a certain spot where all the media are, or are you in different spots, Tim?
Oh, okay.
That's a good question.
All right. So I can walk you through this, Angie Gray. Okay, so excuse me. So I'll take you through my whole day. So
yeah, I like that.
Get up nice and early. What time did I get up? Oh, 6:30. Out the door by 7:30.
Yeah.
On the road, took me 45 minutes to drive from the little town I'm in, which is beautiful, by the way, all the way out to Silverstone. Get out to Silverstone, took all the back roads, took the back way in to Silverstone too. Another journalist taught me the back way in. And Adam, it's like this dirt road. I actually literally thought I was lost. And I'm like, there's no way this is like the entrance to this friggin' racetrack. And it was like a couple kilometers long. And I'm like, there's just no way. There's no way. And then all of a sudden, boom, hundreds of people are all over the place and you're dodging people with your car. And you're like, oh my God. Like, it was wild, dude, getting in through the back way. It was the quickest way, though. I will say that.
Okay,
I got to drive underneath the racetrack through a tunnel, came up into the infield, parked my car in the media parking because there's media parking.
Wow.
Jumped on a double-decker London bus. So they have these London buses that are running consistently all day during the Grand Prix weekend from the media parking lot through to hospitality areas and also the paddock.
Yep.
You jump on the one that goes to the paddock, you take that there, you get off, and you basically are riding the bus with the teams.
Wow.
So aside from the drivers and team principals, you're on there with everybody else. The mechanics, the PR people, everybody. It's actually kind of nice because like I've made a lot of friends over the last few years, so it's like you come on and you're just like, hey, how's it going? You start sit down, you start chatting away, like, how's your day? Did you guys get out of here late last night? Yeah. Did you have a couple beers? You know, that kind of stuff. And then you walk into the paddock together. It's a lot of fun. I actually really enjoy it. Anyway, so from there, the media center is where we do all of our work. So essentially, it's on the third floor of the pit building. So where all the cars are. The cars are literally underneath you in the garages, and you're kind of like sitting on top of them, and you have a huge window that sees the start finish line, which is great, by the way, because some racetracks it's hard to see the track at all. Like in Canada, you don't see the track, you see the water basin, and that is it. But at Silverstone, in tracks like Austria, you get to see the actual track, and you can see quite a bit of it. So if you're bored or whatever and you're not tweeting or researching stuff, you can go over the window and watch the races. I watched F2 today from the window for a while, and I watched the start of the F1 race as well. And essentially, our media center has pretty much everything in it that you would need. There's a canteen to get food. The food's really good too. Water is obviously free. They make you cappuccinos. They make you lattes if you want one. So they actually take really good care of you at these media centers. Cool. Really good care of you. And that's pretty much it. And so essentially it works that if you are on a tight deadline or you're racing to get a story through, and you need to talk to somebody in the paddock really quickly, it's easy for you to get down, get outside into the paddock, go to the team that you need to talk to, and start chatting. You're walking a lot throughout your days, but it's easier to access. Like it is way easier to access. Like Canada, same thing. You're literally go down the stairs and out the door. Miami's a little different. It's a lot longer to go. Vegas is much different. Their media center is like really far away from the track. You're doing a lot of walking in Vegas for covering F1. Mexico is really good too. Theirs is right in the paddock, their media center. Whose else is really good? The Dutch one's good, I've heard. The Italian Grand Prix one's good. Spanish Grand Prix one's good. Those are some of the ones that I can talk about because I've been to. And Austin, Texas is really good. Actually, theirs is excellent too. Austin's is really good. Yeah. So essentially, like that's how it works. You always want to make sure that the media centers are close to the paddock because you do need to run out there sometimes to have a quick chat with somebody or have a coffee, catch up, all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, that's essentially how it. It's essentially how
it's
it
very
works
glamorous, Tim. It's very glamorous.
Very glamorous. Yes.
Well, listen,
getting in at 11 o'clock at night is very glamorous, Adam. It's very glamorous.
Tim, we have juiced you as far as we can in terms of energy. Juicer. Yeah, we've squeezed all the energy out of Tim that we possibly can get. I know there's a bed next to you that is calling your name, but I appreciate the fact that you went all the way for us today. Appreciate it. And we're going to be back Thursday, so we'll do a catch up show then. Maybe we have some news on Alpine the next couple of weeks until we get Belgium. We're just going to go down to one episode a week, so everybody can expect that on Thursdays. Tim, best of luck on your flight back. We're looking forward to seeing you in person.
All right. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Talk to you later, Adam.